All right, greetings everyone. Let me arrange it. I am broadcasting from Florida. I'm at my parents' place in Clearwater because my mom's not doing particularly well. So I am broadcasting from here. I hope you are all doing well on this Friday night. And no guest tonight. Tonight is discussion night. And so the discussion is Lower Decks canon? And this came up because I saw Sean Tornjo, who designed the USS Titan, and was one of the three who designed the USS Ares, myself, him, and Tobias Richter. He was all excited because the Titan showed up in Lower Decks, which is cool, of course. And he said, well, it's canon now. And I was like, is it canon? And I came down actually on two sides of that discussion. Let's see, hold on one second. I'm just going to, hey, listen, make sure Jonathan Lane and Joshua Irwin are they're both coming on, and neither of them has popped up yet. So anyway, I came on to, I thought about it a lot. I thought about, okay, so what's canon and what's not? I said my first instinct is it's animated. It's not canon. The animated series, the original animated series isn't canon. Why would this be canon? It's, so chalk one up in the no way category, right? It's not canon. Cartoons are not canon. Cartoons are cartoons, right? I don't care how, when it's made, what. Now, listen, let's face it. CBS is the rights holder. They can decide if it's canon or not. But the creator of the show even said it wasn't canon. So that's like point two. The creator of Lower Decks said it wasn't canon. So why would it be canon? Hey, Josh.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey. So that's point number two. Is that if the creator of the show says it's not canon, it's not canon. Okay. And point three is that just because it says Star Trek doesn't mean it falls into the original series canon, right? I mean, listen, our conversations now are Discovery and Picard part of the original series canon, right? Or are they an alternate universe? So it's not only a discussion, is it canon or not canon? The discussion is what universe does it belong in? Because Star Trek is more and more a multiverse, right? And we have books, we have novels, and so that's another thing I would say. No, it's just another universe. Lower Decks it's not canon. It's not part of the original series canon. That goes from the original series to Enterprise and everything in between. Because listen, I think there's a heavy conversations about does Discovery fall in that. So Discovery's canon, but I've contended that it's another universe. It's not. So those are the things I think weigh against Lower Decks being canon. Now, why is it canon? I think really the only thing you can make it, and it's interesting when I posted this on the Axanar YouTube Facebook page, there were some really good comments by some people who I invited on, but I never heard from them. And the comments generally ran, just because they bring in an element that may be canon doesn't mean the show's canon. It's a two-way street, right? And if it's just one way, they can pull that doesn't mean it's canon. And so I'm gonna, if you have to keep asking that question, you're in the wrong place. So I think the discussion then is, well, why would it be canon? I think the Titan, being that the Titan has been on the cover of all these pocketbooks and I'm sure it was in the Ships of the Line calendar at some point. It's part of the expanded universe. It's part of the Star Trek multiverse that includes the books and the comics and all of that stuff. But it's not part of prime timeline canon yet, right? Now you could argue all those books, because of the way they've been treating them lately, are part of canon. You could certainly argue that, but I think it's really right. I think that's the expanded universe. and the Titan and the Aventine are both, or Vanguard Station are all firmly placed in that expanded universe. That's where, so they're in that expanded universe canon. They're not Prime Universe. Listen, the Titan is not, I'm going to fall down on this. Simply, the Titan is not part of Prime Universe canon. I'm sorry, it's not. It's in a cartoon. It's on book covers. It's part of that, expanded universe, which is great. I mean, I think it's very cool that it showed up on Lower Decks. I think that's great for those guys to bring in different elements. I'd love to see other things. I'd love to see the Aventine show up on Lower Decks, right? I think that'd be really cool. So anyway, I asked a couple guys to come on and to talk for a few minutes each about it. I'm going to kick off Jonathan here for a minute. Jonathan, you can just wait in the green room there. And we're going to talk with Joshua first because he was. Josh, give me your thoughts on this.
So my take on Lower Decks, which I love, and it's been my favorite of all of the new Star Trek shows to come out recently, isn't so much that it's in the Star Trek universe. Like, I don't think the show takes place in the Star Trek universe. I think it's a program made in the Star Trek universe. I think that it's something that real Star Trek characters watch. Like Worf's dirty secret is that he never misses an episode on Saturday morning with a replicated bowl of Fruity Pebbles.
I love that. Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
So that's my headcanon for it. But, I appreciate it. I've enjoyed everything about it. It makes me laugh, and that's important to me. I know people that can't accept anything new Star Trek that's coming out at all. I've got a lifelong friend I've been friends with for over 30 years who I met in 7th grade science class because I saw that he'd drawn a picture of Deep Space Nine on his binder. And we've been friends ever since. This guy will not watch any of it. Not Lower Decks, not Picard, not Discovery. He won't watch the Orville. And I just think you're kind of cheating yourself when you do that. I mean, yeah, there are things about it that Lower Decks especially that's silly, but it's a cartoon. You know what I mean? And so that's my headcanon is that it's made by someone who's ex-Starfleet. It's like, their version of Gomer Pyle or something.
Yeah. No, that's great. I mean, that's a great way to look at it. Silver Bullet says Riker's Titan was mentioned in Star Trek Nemesis. Yeah, it's mentioned, but that doesn't canonize the actual design from the books, right? All it says is we know that's Riker's ship was the Titan. It could have been a dreadnought for all we know. It could have been a scout ship. It could have been, a shuttlecraft. I don't know. But
it also gives us the opportunity to see some interesting things you wouldn't see on live action Star Trek. Yeah. It gives us an opportunity to make jokes at the expense of the show and poke fun of it. Or look at what Riker did there at the end, where he's like 5, 6, 7, warp 8. And
he's not really see that. Right. Exactly. In canon, he's not going to do that. So it is and I think that's also because there's so much humor in it. That's another chalk mark in the column of it's not canon. Again, it's not to take anything away from it. I don't want to take away anything from Lower Decks because a lot of people really like it, and I think it's not for me. But that's okay. That doesn't mean I hate on it. It's just it's not my Star Trek, right? I'm not into that whole cartoon.
The only real argument that I could maybe make for it is that it does fit timeline-wise. From what we've been able to see from star dates and such, it takes place about a year after Nemesis and about 5 years before the attack on Mars. So it fits in the timeline. But that's basically the only argument I could make for it.
Yeah. Gary Pemberton says, listen, it's just a different type of Star Trek, right? And I think it's okay for us to have different types of Star Trek. I don't think it all has to be the same thing. I think by expanding it into cartoons, you bring in you attract a different audience. You create different people. Now people are cosplaying that stuff. I think that, and I think that's cool. Let's see. E-series and alternate, but they're all canon. Well, yeah, but again, it's not canon in the Prime universe. canon in the animated universe. I mean, I think the big question is this take place in the same universe the original animated series TAS was, right? Or is this a different universe where comedy is the rule, right? Because this isn't the way people are acting in Star Trek. It's a comedic take. And also, listen, there's also what we call headcanon, right? Which is for you, listen, plenty of people say Axanar is canon. And I'm like, well, thank you. It's not canon because we're not a CBS property. But if it's part of your headcanon, it's part of what you want to see in Star Trek. God bless you. Thank you so much. All right, we're going to bring in Jonathan and have see what
finally.
What's that?
You could have left Josh on. I don't mind sharing. Josh is my man. I mean, he's making Interlude look amazing.
I had to take a break from working on the communicator effect.
Oh man, yes. I'm writing a blog for next week, answering the question of when is Interlude coming out, and there's a line in there, Josh, that you were gonna particularly. I'm not gonna ruin it for you, but there's a line in there you're gonna be like, okay, John, that was for me. But anyway, no. You're gonna like it. You're gonna like that.
Okay.
Line. You're gonna be totally like, okay, John understands what he's doing to me. Okay. Anyway,
topic at hand.
What was that?
Let's get to the topic at hand, Mr. Verbosky.
Well, first of all, I love Josh's idea. I hadn't thought about this before, but basically, Lower Decks is a holodeck program in the Star Trek universe. I love that idea. Now, I don't know if that's in my head canon, but I did come up while you guys were talking with a brand new term. Okay, animated canon. It's canimated.
Oh. You just can't help yourself, can you?
I can't. I pun. Anyway,
I'm going to point out here. Michael Anderson points out, where has it been said that CBS that Lower Decks is canon? Well, they haven't said it is canon, and again, the creator of the show said it isn't canon. So that's what Again, that's going to govern. If CBS comes out and says, "Oh, Lower Decks is canon," which I don't think they're going to do. Listen, they don't.
If you're arguing that it's not canon, then you are a Boimler. You're a Boimler fan. Did anybody read my blog on the secret message of Lower Decks?
I did.
You did.
Mm-hmm.
For those who didn't, the main characters, they're us. They are the prototypical fans, the kinds of fans. And I'd like to very briefly read my explanation of the differences between the fans. It'll go quick. Mariner, she's the cocky fan who's watched every episode of Star Trek. She's memorized them. She walks around like she's God's gift to fandom. Her knowledge of Star Trek trivia is second to none, which is ultimately meaningless. But in the kingdom of the Trekkies, the fan with the most trivia expertise is the king or queen and knows it. Mariner is the fan who boldly goes up to William Shatner at a con and talks to him like he's an old friend, reminiscing about the good old days when they were on Star Trek together. Granted, the fan was never on Star Trek, but they know all the stories of the set, so it's almost like the fan was there. This fan has no fear when approaching any Star Trek celebrity. Boimler is the nervous and insecure fan. For him, Star Trek is sacred, something to be quietly and intensely worshipped. He knows all the trivia, but he's always been socially awkward. Unlike Mariner, who also knows all the trivia, Boimler takes it all way too seriously. He's the get-a-lifer. Other fans look at Boimler and tell him to get a life. If he sees Shatner at a convention, the Boimler fan pees in his pants or costumes, faints, and then when he finally recovers and changes into his spare uniform, he gets in the autograph line at the very back, practices what he'll say to Shatner the whole time he's waiting, finally gets to the front, then freezes and babbles incoherently before finally peeing in his pants again. Then there's Rutherford. Rutherford is the fan who's memorized every Star Trek tech manual and blueprint. I think this is Alec. An NCC number and prefix code. He studies starship designs and weapons systems and transporter circuitries and can speak the language of technobabble fluently. What the Star Trek writers created out of thin air to quickly explain how Geordi or B'Elanna or Trip was going to save the ship makes perfect sense to Rutherford. In fact, he's probably written or drawn tons of specs himself, which he shares online with other Rutherfords in blogs and podcasts. Samuel Cockings, are you watching? This fan doesn't bother with Shatner's autograph line at all, and instead spends 90 minutes chatting with Michael and Denise Akuta and Rick Sternbach, along with a dozen other Rutherford fans who are all debating whether the Enterprise D is 642 meters long or 642.5 meters long. Then there's Tendi, and Tendi is the fan who just loves everything about Star Trek. She spends most of the convention going to the panels and walking the dealer's room and buying a ton of merchandise. And she takes 1 billion pictures. She gets on the Shatner autograph line, gets to the front, tells him how much she loves Captain Kirk and Star Trek, and begs him to let her take a picture with him. Of course, the convention says no pictures except for the ones you pay $250 for later on. So she says, okay, pays the $250, even though it means not eating for the next 3 weeks, gets online again, takes her photo with Shatner, giving him a huge hug and kiss, and then enlarges the photo to wall size and puts it next to her other blow-ups of the other Star Trek cast members that she's met. And the Shatner photo also becomes that year's Christmas card, and she sends it to all of her friends, family, and to Shatner's agent with a note, please give this to Mr. Shatner and tell him how much I appreciate all he's done for me and the other fans. Live long and prosper and keep on trekking. All my love forever, Tendi fan. So that's it. That's the secret message of...
Which one are you, Jonathan?
I'm totally Rutherford. I'm kind of Rutherford Mariner. You can kind of mix and match. Because I've got all the Star Trek trivia in my head, but I will also go and
there he is!
I invoked the demon.
Rutherford M. Cockins.
The Rutherford fan.
We both like tech, do we?
Yeah, I think you were the quintessential Rutherford fan, Sam. In fact, actually, when I wrote that up, I was thinking of you and Alex Rosenzweig.
I feel like our response should be okie dokie, shouldn't it?
So the operative question, which Jonathan has, of course, spoken for 5 minutes, run over everything and not answered the question, kind of like Donald Trump at a debate, is Lower Decks canon, Mr. Cockins?
I mean, I was at Vegas where Mike was doing his first panel. I got to ask the third question he ever answered, out of 5, I think. I asked about the costumes. And as far as I have heard him say in interviews, that he says he would not make the show unless it was canon. And those are in audio interviews he's done, so he thinks it's canon, and he needed to be canon by CBS, and so CBS and he thinks it's canon, writing it to be canon.
I thought you said he didn't think it was canon.
No, he said he only wanted to if it would be prime canon. That was one of his conditions for doing it. So if he thinks, he's one of the lead writers, and he's telling his team, if you consider how many hundreds of references in 10 episodes, and I'm obviously canonista, we all are in different ways, but I am hard-pressed to find anything I can the worst thing of this current episode 10, is the phaser strips on the Titan are recessed, not extruded.
Oh, no, I got something worse for you, Sam.
Okay.
All right, now here we go. Uniforms. The uniforms on the Titan are the classic DS9 uniforms. The ones on the...
That's the question I asked him. It's easy. It's fine.
What?
The uniforms, that makes sense. It's fine.
Well, hold on. Well, the idea is that the uniforms on the Cerritos are the uniforms they wear after the gray uniforms, except that Riker's still wearing the gray uniforms. And then when Boimler goes on to the Titan, he's suddenly wearing the gray uniforms too. So he's going back in time. So in that case, I was like, that ruined it for me. I love the episode, and then suddenly, no, I'm kidding.
You guys are talking about like recessed phaser arrays and uniforms, and I'm like, there's an exocomp named Peanut Hamper.
That's fine, Joshua. It's fine. Of course there is. Why wouldn't that be?
By the way, I watched with Jaden, and he was so happy that Peanut Hamper ended up getting what she deserved in the end. He was just cheering that last scene where she's going, help me.
Although I'm not sure how it got there, because there's a different star system.
One of the important things that, an important point that was made is that if it's going to be canon, it has to go both ways. So it's pulling in from canon, yes. But would it ever be pulled into another canon show? And this is another reason why I would say, no, it's not canon, because you will never see a Star Trek movie bring in anything. I mean, they may mention the Cerritos by name, but they're not going to show the ship. They're not going to show the characters. They're not going to incorporate anything from the show into prime timeline.
You could conceivably have a Tawny Newsome cameo on Picard as a Captain Mariner. I mean, in real life, she does kind of look the part.
Oh, they all do.
You could see that. I do want to make one point about it, though, that I've noticed, and that is, like, if you look at Discovery, one of the biggest black marks against Discovery has been that it's like the Michael Burnham show, that it's so focused on Michael Burnham that the ensemble cast really gets played down. I didn't think that happened in Lower Decks. I feel like that it wasn't the Beckett Mariner show, and she was clearly the main character, but everybody seemed to get equal screen time.
Yeah,
and you can learn to love every one of these characters.
Well, let's not say
this last episode,
proportionate, because their importance is relative. The thing is, unlike Burnham, who stays important the entire time, the 10 episodes, there's an arc. There's a fully written, you understand a 10-episode arc where she starts one place, ends at another place, and everyone gets brought up because they all evolve. Didn't happen in any other treks, apparently. And yet this felt full.
Admiral Slater is here.
Admiral Slater.
How you doing?
How are you, sir?
I'm good. How is everyone?
Good. So, what are your thoughts? Do you consider Lower Decks canon or not, and why?
Absolutely. Absolutely. First of all, this was a masterstroke, in my opinion, because everybody, before it came out, everybody was going, this is stupid. This is absolutely stupid. No one wants a comedy out of Star Trek. And a good series is combination thriller, combination drama, combination comedy. I mean, MASH is probably a prototype of exactly that kind of thing and how well it went on. Star Trek didn't have a laugh track, but every time you heard that music with anytime Spock got the upper hand to McCoy, and McCoy was just left dumbfounded, we all laughed our butts off. So in terms of Lower Decks, it just worked well. I think the showrunners and Kurtzman realized exactly what they needed to do to make it Star Trek. Not only all the Easter eggs, but I think Jonathan was the one who really put it together, that the four characters of Mariner, Boimler, Tendi, and Rutherford are us. And that's what made it a fabulous show, besides excellent writing, good animation, and just a lot of Easter eggs that we all loved and enjoyed. But what makes it canon is, well, one, I'd have to say the business. It is Paramount. It is CBS. And, if you go into Memory Alpha already, you're already seeing things that say that this happened, this happened, this happened. Oh, yeah, and this happened in Lower Decks. But I think it's true to the series. I think it's true to the characters. And it's allowing us to look at the characters in a different way than pure reveration. I'm sure somebody wanted to know what Ensign Rowe thought of Kirk and Spock, and now we're hearing it from Tendi, and now we're hearing it from Mariner. But that's just my opinion.
Now, the other thing about this show and what's happening is the Star Trek universe is getting so vast now that canon is in effect becoming meaningless.
Sure.
I think before Discovery, there were people that were arguing that Enterprise wasn't canon, right? And those people basically got shouted down because basically it was really, really, really hard to make that claim. And then Discovery comes along. And Discovery, you can make very, very, very good arguments that Discovery is not part of the prime timeline, no matter what CBS says. I mean, CBS can tell me, say, oh, it's canon all he wants. He will never convince me that it exists in the same universe as the prime timeline. Maybe that's Kelvin universe, or maybe that's Kurtzman universe. I don't know. It's not prime universe. You can tell me, oh, well, CBS says it's prime. Bullshit. You cannot do a visual reboot and exist in the same universe. That's my point. So I think but ultimately, canon, ultimately, what CBS is doing is making canon meaningless. Canon is, they are basically saying, you know what? It's all head canon. You guys decide what's canon. Because we're fucking up the universe so bad.
Well, Alec, I mean, the more shows that they make, but the more shows they make, you know, the fact is that they're just going to keep making shows and keep making shows, and to just keep trying to tie these in to everything that's coming, it becomes complete. It's an impossible task eventually. I mean, I think, you know, I mean, I can't stand Discovery, but the one thing that they just basically decided eventually is, oh, screw it all. We'll just go to the future, do whatever we freaking want. Because they didn't want to be locked into all of everything that they had to. They were just too trapped. I think Picard was the best idea of the bunch, because by taking it forward, at least they can do stuff with Picard that they don't have to worry about screwing up other things. But there was something that you said a couple of minutes ago, which is canon has to go both ways. I'm not sure it can at this point for Lower Decks, because there's nothing else out there in that time frame, and I don't think there's going to be. You know, your next show is Pike.
You'd basically be saying that characters in the Prime timeline act like the characters on Lower Decks. No, they don't. You know, Prime timeline is legitimate fiction. Lower Deck is comedy. It can't those two things.
It's the office of Star Trek. You know,
but Alec, the Prime timeline has space hippies. And a planet of all like African people that own.
You have no vaccine.
Look, people call out, you know, modern Star Trek for inconsistencies with classic Star Trek. Classic Star Trek has inconsistencies with itself.
Sure it does.
You know, there's a guy who gets on YouTube and he edits all of these videos. His name is Major Grin. Has all these really great parody edits, by the way. But he does all these videos where he's trying to compare something that happens in Picard or Lower Decks to something in Next Generation. And he's like, you know, like Boimler lies, and then he shows the scene from The First Duty. Oh, you know, you could show the scene from Wrath of Khan where Kirk says Klingons don't take prisoners, and then cut to the scene from Star Trek 3 where Captain Krug is like, I wanted prisoners!
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, no, yeah. Spock says he never lies, and then there's an episode where he says, there's a multi-legged creature crawling up your shoulder. Yeah, you know, I mean, the thing is, the way that Kirk talks to Niels Barris in The Trouble with Tribbles, Kirk would never talk to anybody like that who is a high ranking.
Which just gets to the point, I think, that canon is becoming meaningless in Star Trek. Both meaningless and very personal. Because we get to now make head canon. I mean, why are we talking about what's canon? Who gives a fuck what's canon and what's not canon?
I was going to ask you that.
What matters is what is personal, what is head canon to you.
Well, I mean,
why are we all here? Why do we even care?
Yeah, there's an extremely good. There's an extremely good argument for saying that there's a certain fan film that's canon. You know. That shall remain nameless, you know.
Or you could do what I did and make my fan films intentionally not canon. Let's not even go there. It's not. Yeah. It's another universe.
Mine's canon.
Different thing. Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, look, guys. When it comes right down to it, I watched all 10 episodes of Lower Decks with Jaden. Something I have not been able to do with Discovery or Picard. You know, he hasn't watched enough Star. He doesn't know that Riker commanded the Titan. You know, and he didn't remember Return of the Archons. You know, those parts of the last night's episode went over his head. But he loved the episode, and I love the episode. And there's the cutest little boy behind Josh. Hello there. Goodbye.
That is Austin Joseph, who is the namesake for my Avalon universe character, Joseph Austin.
Oh, lovely.
Oh, anyway, I remember when mine was that cute. But anyway, you know, Jaden and I were watching it last night, and I'm gonna interview him actually for Fan Film Factor and get the 10-year-old perspective on, because we haven't had a child's perspective on Star Trek in a long time. Yeah, he knows there's, you know, the words that got beeped. He doesn't care. Thank God they beeped them, but he just liked it, and it was just this half an hour of Dad and Jaden enjoying themselves together and laughing and cheering at some stuff. And it's just, you know, do we really need to fit it into canon, or can we just like sit back for 24 minutes and just enjoy this thing that they're presenting to us.
Even though it's a cartoon, yeah.
Even though it's a cartoon.
To your point there, Jonathan and Stephen, let me tell you about my introduction to Star Trek. I was 5, and I watched the first animated series on Nickelodeon, and that's how I discovered Star Trek. And that led me to the movies, and then I'll never forget that, premiere day in 1987, I watched Encounter at Farpoint. So I'm a lifelong Star Trek fan because of a cartoon.
Yeah. And, so I realize that, the whole idea of, let's make this fit in the canon, and it has to. And there are so many fans, I posted the link that you gave me, Alec, on Fan Film Factor. And I said, prepare the canon. And I think there were like 48 different comments within the next 5 minutes. And no one agreed. I mean, half the people were saying, of course it's canon. The other half saying it's not canon. It'll never be canon. And they were just arguing so much. And I'm just thinking to myself, you know what? Repeat to yourself, it's just a show. I should really just relax. It's good, clean fun. And I don't think we're going to see Boimler and Mariner and the rest of them on Picard. And at this point, that's the only place potentially we're going to see them, unless CBS decides to do another Picard era or after era Star Trek. Because they're not. And
I think it would be really cool if they did show them, right? Like if we did, I think that would be really cool. All right, because I think
keep in mind in Picard's time, it could be Captain Boimler.
Yeah, and again, I think that would be great. But at that point, again, it's hard to make it. It's both hard to make the case that it's canon, and it's also makes the case, which I think is a better one, that all of us Star Trek fans should stop talking about what's freaking canon, because it really doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is, do you enjoy the show or not?
Well, can I bring up 2 things that I've been thinking of while he's been talking?
Yeah.
So those of you that watched this episode, this is what me and Stuart both agreed, that this episode 10 has been the best Star Trek episode since 2005 with Intimate Darkly Part 2. Without question. Simple answer, would you guys agree, disagree? Best Star Trek episode since 2005?
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's like saying the largest state in New England.
Oh yeah, sure. Sure. It's not a hard question, but the fact that everyone and so many people in our chat agreed instantly, and that says something very clear. This is what fans want. But in terms of, is it canon? Lower Decks has been absolutely astounding in what it's pulled from. They've used many animated series, literal aliens, without barely changing them. They've used direct TNG canon. They used DS9. They used obviously the correct uniforms. They've used phasers, tricores. They even used the J.J. Abrams Klingon disruptor in a scene with a TMP disruptor and Klingon armor and Star Trek 3 disruptor. They've used things from literally everything. They mentioned Archer in the last episode. They included the Pasteur from late TNG. They've literally included every single side of the universe except obviously Discovery, yay, and Picard doesn't exist yet. It's the show that's used the most canon out of every show, and does it consistently and correctly.
Yeah,
and I love it for that.
Yeah. And they're not using it the way Discovery was using it, as if they were ornaments on a Christmas tree, saying, "Look at how Star Trek we are." Discovery would throw in a Tribble or a Gorn skeleton just to say, "Oh, look at Star Trek. Here's Harry Mudd. Look at Star Trek." Here it's just like, get onto the train and just enjoy the scenery.
Yeah, and it started immediately. I think that's one of the great things about Lower Decks, is because it wasn't. I think part of the way they went into it is they said, "Okay, we know the TNG universe. We've got this. All we have to do is just not feel like we have to introduce the characters or anything like this. Just go straight into it and just grab on and hold on for dear life." And it worked.
And here's the thing, we all know, and we can genuinely say that Star Trek Discovery was not made for Star Trek fans.
I was about to go into that.
Just like J.J. was not made for Star Trek fans. That was a different audience. Kurtzman universe is none of those guys really were making it. They might have cared. You might have a Robert Orsi on set, on your team that was making sure it was Star Trekky, but no one was making it for Star Trek fans. Lower Decks is made for Star Trek fans. It's not made for anyone else. It's made for Star Trek fans. It is like,
but you have to admit,
we're sorry about everything else, Star Trek fans. This is for you.
But you have to admit, didn't you howl with laughter in Mariner's movie when you saw the lens flares?
Oh yeah.
My favorite part was the end with the signatures.
Oh yeah. I still have to rewatch it and like literally, count how many, references to the movie. But that's once again, Jaden didn't get all of that, but he just liked the episode. And that's been the thing with everything is that it, in addition to it being for Star Trek fans, if you're not, I mean, Jaden's a Star Trek fan, but I mean, he's not like us. He's just enjoying it. I mean, it's good storytelling. There's always an A story that usually involves Mariner and Boimler, but there's also a B story with Tendi and Rutherford usually. And then there's usually some interaction with either a C story or interacting with the Upper Decks characters. They're not just, the way Martin Sheen was originally supposed to be in The West Wing was, you just occasionally see the president walking past, in the back, but it was going to really be Rob Lowe and everybody else. And then Martin Sheen was such a great character that he became, an intrinsic part of it, but it's an ensemble cast. And the same thing with this. This is an ensemble show that focuses primarily on these 4 characters, but not exclusively. And each one of these characters is so well defined to the point where at the very end of the last episode, what makes the end of the last episode so interesting is that almost every one of these characters is now in a different place.
Mm-hmm.
Rutherford
protagonism.
Exactly. Rutherford no longer has his memory, and Mariner is now pining after the loss of Boimler when you thought she didn't care about him at all, and Boimler doesn't care about her at all. He's Mr. Big on, Mariner and her mom are now going to get together. This is all like amazing character arcs in a cartoon show that half of the fans, or less than half of the fans, aren't watching because they're like, it's not canon, I'm not going to watch it. And I'm like, oh my God.
It's also not in the rest of the world, guys.
Right.
International.
If there's anything that comes out of this discussion, it should be that canon doesn't matter, especially when you're talking about Lower Decks. It's not the issue. If you're arguing about is it canon or not, you've missed the point. And the point is that it's meant to be for Star Trek fans.
Yeah.
Well, the point of them using canon as references, I mean, canon wouldn't mean anything if it wasn't somewhat consistent. Them using references are them saying canon's important, otherwise they wouldn't care. So it's actually the opposite. It's that canon is very important and Lower Decks cares about it so much, they're going to make a show in it so organically and yet so radically different. I mean, the fact that there's a great koala controlling the universe and yet it's just, it's fine. Doesn't matter, but it's also brilliant. It works so effortlessly. And it's like, we are going to see so many amazing things. Season 1 was a triumph. We all thought could just be a comedy, a teen comedy, Rick and Morty spoof. No, it's something truly unique that isn't Orville, that has real characters at its heart, real stories at its heart, that is not just staying where it is. Like Jonathan said, it's radically different start to the end. And season 2, we have no idea where it's going to go. And 13 episodes. I would not be surprised if they give a full 22 commission order if they upgrade it, because they need episodes of some sort of Trek next year to get CBS money. So I wouldn't be surprised if they give them a full order.
But it's too expensive, I think. I don't know.
Well, one season of Picard is probably 3 of Lower Decks. I mean, it's not.
It's so low. It's so layered. And I think about back to our discussion, a discussion we had on the last Axanar / interlude shoot was Alec was asking me what my favorite episodes of different Star Trek shows were. And I'll never forget the look on his face when I told him my favorite TOS episode was Return of the Archons. And so like to see that at the very beginning with Landru and then, but what I loved is, and you had to have watched the episode to understand this. They're like passing out art supplies to these kids. And it's like, why would they be doing that? Because it was all about creativity. That was the argument that Spock and Kirk made to make Landru, blow up was like, you got to have creativity. And so they're like passing out art supplies, I thought it was fun.
And by the way, what I loved about that as well was that after Kirk left and everybody just went back to worshiping Landru again because that's all they ever knew. But you just had this sign on the computer saying, "Don't listen to the computer."
By the way, I want to thank along that line. I mean, they've got such a great amount of material that they can use for this. If they're going to use the Cerritos as the second contact ship My favorite one would be if Cerritos went to Iosha. And you saw a
fun episode. Not that
you saw a Starfleet with oh god, you see all those guys in the old TOS uniforms with fedoras.
Yeah, that would be hilarious.
That
will be hilarious.
Itself.
They will do that. Yeah, they will do that.
I want to thank Super Crew 63 and Steve Ross for their super chats. Thank you very much, gentlemen. We appreciate it. I want to also remind you all that we are sponsored by Patreon, or we are funded by Patreon. So please, there is our Patreon link down at the bottom, patreon.com, Aries Studios. I know that over the past month or so, I've gotten a couple people who've just been hit on hard times and had to drop out, and we certainly understand that. I've had conversations with a couple people. So if things aren't rough for you and you can spare, $2 a month, $5 a month, whatever, please go to patreon.com/Aries Studios and join our Patreon campaign. And the other thing is there's lots of cool Axanar swag in the Aries Studio store. You can see it scrolling down at the bottom. I just added all the MSD posters from the latest Kickstarter. So if you are a fan of the art of Alexander Richardson, or some of you like ships. I know Sam likes
all the Rutherfords out there. We got stuff for you.
If you're a Rutherford, you need to have all of our blueprints and both the blueprints of USS Aries and all the MSD posters are now in the Aries Studio store. So please support us that way.
I've got to head out, but I'll just pimp that we did a 3.5 hour live scene by scene breakdown of episode 10 today. So if you want a scene by scene, extremely detailed breakdown with stills and
Trekyards. Yep,
go see Trekyards.
Wow, love it.
Check out Trekyards on.
But it isn't faff. Like it's genuine scene by scene with very and people interact and.
Well, you guys do a great job. I mean, every time you go frame by frame, you get the best frames.
And there are so many surprising things you don't see unless you literally sit and look at it for 10 minutes.
I'll pimp something else out for Sam. Somebody is killing it with his fan film work right now.
Oh yeah.
Just wait.
Yeah. And Dreadnought Dominion, that's coming out. I just finished those guys. There's some really nice stuff.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And Ray's film and Joshua's thing. I was actually running D7 right now, or will be.
You're working on Squadron.
Fan films.
He's doing everything. Everything.
Yeah.
Didn't Axanar kill fan films? I mean, that's what.
Hey, don't tell me.
If they killed fan films, I'd be a very bored person right now.
For those that enjoy fan films, I mean, the last 3 months this year, my God, there's some good stuff coming out. This is going to be an incredibly big 3 months. We haven't had a month. I haven't had a 3 months this big. I don't think ever. Yeah, honestly.
By the way, starting this Sunday night. By the way, with Unrest, which is David Chang's newest fan film. With they're basically all the cosplayers making a fan film, so the costumes look impeccable. They were the guys who did the Human Adventures with the TMP, and that's coming out. And then next week, Romulan War finally is coming out.
Yeah, that looks fabulous.
And then next month, November 13th, Pacific 201 after 5 years.
Oh God, wow.
Yeah, it won the race, Alec, against Axanar. He both have been going for 5 years, and it's going to come out first. We're still trying to figure out when Interlude's coming out. Look for my blog next week on that one. And then Yorktown in December. Squadron's just been pushed back to February.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh,
yeah, that's yeah. Well, that literally is less than 24 hours old.
Interlude is in good shape. Interlude is in really good shape. For anyone wondering, it's right here, right next to me.
Yeah,
on my desk.
Right there. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Don't let your house burn down.
I think it was Sam that was like, so did you see when such and such happens in Interlude? I'm like, no one's showed me anything from Interlude. I have no idea what Interlude. I've seen the little teaser that Jonathan put together, but as for the rest of it, I have no idea what's going on.
No, I shared some of the stuff with Sam because he was jealous to see what Lewis Anderson was doing. So I was sharing some of the visual effects as they were coming in.
And pimp, I did do Ray Tessie's last film, so that's also coming out. And he's got another idea for next year. And it's super interesting. Like, we all love it because it's canon. It uses canon. That'll be a lot of fun.
Doesn't Vance have something coming out soon?
He always does, doesn't he?
Doesn't Vance have something come out soon?
When doesn't he?
Somewhat.
Who has something coming out soon?
Vance Major Owen.
Oh, Fans
Oh,
like
man.
has something coming out every day.
I know.
Yeah.
We do not have
Not more on
something-
Trekyards though.
Yeah.
What's that?
All right, good night,
I've
everyone.
actually-
I'm sorry, I do have to ask Sam one thing before he goes. Have you figured out what that thing is that's sucking on the Cerritos' tailpipe?
Tardigrade. Tardigrade's mum. I don't know.
That's the
Or
ugliest
McGander.
tardigrade in the
Oh,
world.
yeah, there we go.
No, if they ever tell us what that thing is sucking on the on the back, somebody in the Middle East is going to sue them. So saying it was their idea.
On that note, good night, everyone.
Good night, Sam.
Sam, thanks.
Pleasant dreams.
We appreciate it. So, okay. So I think we have not settled the issue whether Lower Decks is canon, but I think we've all
Never
said
will.
we don't give a shit one way or
Do
another.
we need
Yeah.
to? Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. We are all four of us Mariners right now. And the people who are refusing to watch it because they are standing on, it's CBS and CBS can't do Star Trek and they're trying to destroy Star Trek and this is not proper Star Trek and it's not canon. I will not watch it for any reason, not in a car, not near or far. These are the Boimlers out there. So we are the Mariners just saying, Boimlers, just relax and enjoy it.
Right.
Can't we just be tendies?
I
can be a little tendy sometimes.
I can't pull off a Tendy. I can pull off a Rutherford. I can't pull off a Tendy.
So what is this going to do? So a question about that. What is this going to do with what they're planning on doing with Nickelodeon, with Star Trek Prodigy?
Oh, that's our
Do you
next
think this-
conversation. Is that going to be canon?
Not even completely sure what that is yet. I guess we'll find that out.
Yeah,
I mean, the only thing I know about it is what I saw on just a quick look through their announcements saying that it's a bunch of kids who find an abandoned Starfleet vessel, and their mentor is Captain Janeway. Where is this gonna happen in the timeline? How is it gonna happen? Is she captain? Is she admiral at this point after she's come back to Earth with Voyager? Who knows?
I guess we'll find out in 3 years or whenever it comes on.
Yeah. That one doesn't suit. My big question as far as Star Trek series goes is what's happening to the Section 31 series?
Yeah, we haven't heard anything about that in a while.
Did they basically decide, okay, we've got a winner with Anson Mount, and so let's just put everything into this Strange New Worlds
They
thing?
can only be making so many Star Trek shows. They, my feeling is that the Pike show took the place of Section 31.
That's what I think happened very quietly.
Now,
And that's fine.
That's what. And was what's her name? The bad guy in Section 31.
Michelle Yeoh.
Michelle Yeoh.
Her character pulled into the future with Discovery?
Yeah.
She's on
They had
Discovery.
acted like they did, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So we'll find out next week.
How do you have a Section 31 show with Michelle Yeoh if Michelle Yeoh has been pulled into the future with Discovery?
I don't think they know.
I don't think
And here's the thing. They may completely forget about Michelle Yeoh being in Section 31 if they ever make Section 31, saying because they didn't want to lose Michelle. I mean, she's a really good actress. She wanted to be part of the show. They tried to take the best that they had with Discovery into the future with them. How could you not take Michelle with you? So,
well, I think because I think she's an important counterpoint to rebuilding the Federation too. I think she's the one that's going to make that a really interesting proposition. But anyway.
You link that back to fan fiction for a second. There was this really interesting, I don't know that you could call it a fan film, but there was a really neat, interesting fan fiction that Alexander Siddig and Andrew Robinson did, along with a lot of other cast members from Deep Space Nine, where it was just a Zoom call. And they had Nana playing the Intendant, and they had her in Section 31, kind of as that same sort of, I guess, thing as Michelle Yeoh, and it was a really neat thing to watch. So you got fan fiction, imitating other Star Trek there, but it was done by the actual Star Trek actors. And if you haven't seen it, it's awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't watch it so much as I turned it on and put it on the floor and just laid in my bed and listened to it. It was fantastic.
Yeah, you can totally listen to it, and then and it's long. I mean, like each episode's like a half an hour. But yeah, it was incredibly. I wanted to cover it for Fan Film Factor. I just haven't had a chance to yet. But it's just it's incredible.
I also, there was an episode of Discovery on TV today. Was it today or last night? I forget
Last night.
And it must have been last night. And it was one of the first episodes of Discovery. So I watched it again. And I think my feelings of my initial feeling of seeing the first season of Discovery has just been amplified. And that is that it's a really good science fiction series. I really can't stand Michael Burnham as the central character. And I just wish, it adhered more towards, I just wish it wasn't placed where it was in the timeline. I would have had so much. So nothing has changed in my rewatching other than I'm like, this doesn't deserve all the scoring that it's got.
Yeah, and it's frustrating because there are things about Discovery I really like. There are things I'm just like, come on, but there are aspects of it I really enjoy, and there are characters I love. Tilly, I love Saru, I love a lot of great characters on the show. But then you see that range of how people react. You link it back to a fan film. What is the by far the biggest, the most commented thing I ever see on a fan film, like in the comment section? Better than STD. That's the number one thing people comment on any fan film.
And I see it all the time on Axanar comments, and I appreciate it, but I feel like, God, I just think people are being way too hard on Discovery.
Well, many years ago, I had a friend.
Considering the Discovery was the reason you got sued, probably.
Yeah,
and you're saying,
yeah. But many years ago, I was very close to this fellow by the name of Tim Lynch, and he drank Coke, but he wouldn't drink Pepsi. And it was one of those things where if you drink Coke, you obviously don't drink Pepsi. And I was like, you can drink both of them. And later on, it was sort of like there were people who were watching Deep Space Nine who refused to watch Babylon 5, and vice versa. Remember the folks that used to watch Babylon 5 and say I refused to watch Deep Space Nine because they just ripped off J. Michael Straczynski? Like,
yeah,
you can watch both, and just because you like classic Star Trek or Prime Universe Star Trek doesn't mean you can't watch Discovery and enjoy it the same way. Watching Lower Decks with Jaden. I just enjoy it for the experience of watching with Jaden. Now, that being said, I don't always enjoy Discovery, but, I've enjoyed it more than I've not enjoyed it. I mean, it's like, I watch it and it's like you have an itch on your back that you can't reach, It doesn't stop you from living. It's just like, I just can't. Oh,
here's Stuart.
Oh, wait a second. We've never seen Stuart and Samuel on the screen at the same time. Oh, yes, we have actually.
All the time.
All the time.
Everyone wish Captain Foley a happy Thanksgiving, since it's Thanksgiving in Canada.
On Monday.
Happy Thanksgiving.
It's Thanksgiving weekend this weekend, yes.
So Stuart.
Yes.
You missed the whole conversation about whether.
Yeah, you're late.
We've already decided that we don't really care whether Lower Decks is canon or not.
I had company. I apologize. I got here as soon as I could. I think, who cares, really? If you're enjoying it, you're enjoying it.
And I think that's the thing. I think the thing is it's incredibly enjoyable. That's one thing everyone agrees on.
We also agree that both you and Sam are Rutherfords.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know.
The characters of Lower Decks are basically the four prototypical fans. So you've got the Mariners that are like, just know every piece of Star Trek trivia and are just like, so comfortable with it, and they'll, but they have an ego. And then you've got the Boimlers who like worship Star Trek, and Star Trek is sacred. Those are the ones who are refusing to watch Lower Decks because they got too much of a lump of coal up their asses. And then the Rutherfords are the ones where they're all about the technology. So like if William Shatner has an autograph line that's this long, they're just going to go onto the autograph line for Mike Okuda, which has got 3 people in it. And they're going to be talking to Okuda for 45 minutes along with the other 3 Rutherfords that are up there. And then the attendees are the ones that they buy everything that's Star Trek. They love Star Trek. They get all the autographs. They take all the photos, and they're just so happy with everything. And they don't really care about it being, canon or not. They just love Star Trek because it's Star Trek, and we love Star Trek.
I'd buy that. I like that. Okay,
yeah,
we're Rutherfords. I totally agree.
So you're Rutherford. Alec is definitely a Rutherford. What's Josh?
Mariner.
You're a Mariner. You're definitely a Mariner. I'm a bit of a Mariner too. Let's see, Steve. I
have a meme that I haven't shared with anyone, but I guess I'm talking about it, that I made. That's the Geordi one where he's like,
yeah,
and it's he's doing this to Michael Burnham, and then he's doing that to Mariner.
That's good. Absolutely, yeah.
Me, I think while I'm holding my Enterprise A cup, I'm probably a little bit of Mariner and a little bit of attendee as well.
I'd say, you're not completely attendee.
Although I was a real Rutherford when I was when everything came out, because I had the blueprints, I had the technical manual. I think I still have the technical manual. Yeah, it's somewhere.
I think I'm more of a Ransom, honestly.
Oh, thank you very much.
I think you need to spend a few more years in the gym there, Stuart. I do too, to be a Ransom.
Wow.
Stuart might be the chief engineer guy that Rutherford wanted to run off with.
Yeah,
he's got the mustache. He's got the technical knowledge of the spaceships.
Yeah.
I kind of sit in the corner and by myself and sip my soup. Such a badass. Yeah.
You want to talk about people refusing to watch shows? It isn't a new thing. You want to know who's never seen an episode of Deep Space Nine Beyond the Pilot? Tyler Donovan.
Oh, Tyler.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm like,
Marty McFly.
You haven't watched it? He's like, I thought it was boring as shit. I'm like, you did keep watching it, right? It gets better, Tyler. Nope.
No, it's like watching the first episode of Babylon 5 and saying, I'm not going to watch any more of it. It was really kind of boring. Okay, well, I'm not going to tell you what you missed, but you missed a lot.
Yeah.
The closed-mindedness of not wanting to watch something, like even giving it a chance.
Well, you know what? I can understand the closed-mindedness of not watching it if people have mixed feelings about it, or not really getting great reviews. I felt that way about Jack Ryan. I wasn't hearing great things about it, so I stopped watching it. But when everyone is telling you should watch it, you should watch it.
Yeah.
I finally talked my wife into watching Killing Eve because I just heard all these great things about it, and she didn't want to watch it. It's violent, it's whatever. And I said, look, everybody wants you to watch it. You should watch it. Now we're episodes into season 1. We're loving it, and it's like, if everybody's telling you to watch something, watch it.
And I will say this: I would rather have something like this, or say like Cobra Kai, than another reboot, another. Let's just start over and make another version of Spider-Man.
Yeah,
I agree.
In fact, I think that's one of the biggest strengths of the show, which kind of brings us around to what we were talking about 45 minutes ago, is that this show is so firm. I mean, this is the Star Trek we've been waiting for. I realize some people are like, I refuse to watch anything CBS does because it's not Star Trek. Star Trek would never be stupid or whatever. But this is the most Star Trek show CBS has ever produced. Period. Yeah. Exclamation point. Circle it. Yeah. Star.
Yeah.
Stuart, you have anything to add before we sign off here?
Watch Lower Decks if you're not. Why aren't you? And watch Trekyards. Other than that, I think I'd like to think that it's the best. It's the most canon show that has been made out of the new Trek. So whether it's canon or not, it's canon in my opinion. So
yeah,
both the sides of Trekyards unanimous in their support of canonizing Lower Decks
across the pond. Right. Neither one of them stepping foot in America. Yes.
Absolutely.
And by the way, I came up with a new phrase, Stuart. You missed at the very beginning. Canimation.
Canimation, eh?
Animation. It's canon and animation together. Canimation.
God.
That's great. That's
Alec
good.
had
I like
conveniently
that.
forgotten that, but I was going to
Let's
remind
put
him.
two words together that have absolutely no reason to be together.
Yep. like peanut hamper.
Oh, good.
God. All right. Oh, wait. I was going to say what Jonathan kicked us off. All right. Listen, I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight for Axanar Confidential. It's great to have you all here and to talk about Lower Deck and how good.
Yeah.
I think one thing we can all agree on is that you should be watching Lower Decks because it's really made for Star Trek fans.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That is what it's there for.
Trust us.
Although I'm sure the fandom menace has found all sorts of reasons to hate it. Right? Are they?
You're a doomcock.
With that, I'm sure they hate it because they hate anything. They hate everything. Which
the opposite of Mikey and Life cereal. They hate everything.
They hate everything.
Kurtzman is fired 4 times already.
Yeah, he's been fired so many times.
Trouble behind the scenes.
Yeah, right. I know. And the other and here's the reason I'll end it on this. And the reason I think they're all full of shit is because they're supposed to be liking true Star Trek. Do they ever give any credit to any fan films, to Axanar, to anything good that they should like? No, they don't. They just want to hate. It's all about hatred, and it's just a load of crap. And I just can't. I can't get over it. It's just a cesspool of YouTube, and I wish people would be more positive and share things they love. That's why the big channels. Notice the big channels on YouTube are all about celebrating what's coming out. Not about trashing stuff. I think that's a good lesson to learn.
Right.
All right. Listen, thank you. I want to thank Josh Irwin, DP extraordinaire, working currently on Interlude. And what's the next Avalon Universe film coming out?
Well, I'm not going to tell you when it's coming out or what it's called, but it is coming. And it's coming sooner than you might think.
Another Avalon Universe film coming from Josh Irwin. Steve Jepson, Admiral Slater, good to see you again. Thank you so much for joining us from Mississippi, Missouri, one of those M states.
Right now in Iowa, and trying to keep myself and my kids safe. So everybody do what you're supposed to. Wear the damn mask.
Wear your damn mask. Thank you, Jonathan Lane of Fan Film Factor, who also has a Patreon that he's launching. And Stuart Foley of Trekyards. Thank you so much, sir, for his. Is this your first appearance on Axanar Confidential?
It is, actually, yes. You've asked me before, and it just never worked out. So.
Yeah, you've always dissed me, you motherfucker. So,
and suddenly my son can't watch this later on. Thank you, Alec.
There's always cussing on Axanar Confidential. All right, motherfracker. All right, guys, thank you so much, everyone. We will see you. Tomorrow is Starfleet Tactical at 10 o'clock with Chris Weave and Pat Doyle. We'll be back on Sunday. Sunday is Two Geek Girls. We'll be back on Monday for another episode of Axanar After Dark. Thank you so much. And as always, remember, wear your damn mask. Take care, everyone. And thanks to Lissa, our producer, who is always behind the scenes, and she was actually somewhat sober tonight, which was really nice to see.
I haven't had anything to drink at all, so not somewhat
then what's wrong
sober,
with you?
entirely sober.
And how many minutes?
I have had water, and that's it. So I was entirely sober for this.
Okay, she
Good
made up.
singer.
All right, everyone. Thanks so much. Take care.
Good night, everybody.